Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the RepPath Podcast. Today, guys, sorry for the change in scenery here, but all my podcast equipment, James hit it on me.
Yep.
So
I
he's
flew
already
down to Miami. I took all of his podcast equipment and hid it in his house. We had to
bum,
do it.
bum,
And then I voluntarily flew back to New
flew
Jersey
back.
and then lived in this hellhole that we call New Jersey.
So James hit the podcast equipment. So we gotta work with limited resources today, but we'll make it work. But today, guys, we want to talk about today's topic is relationships matter, but process wins. We're going to talk about that because a lot of you guys, you could be in the industry or not, especially for a lot of you that aren't in the industry yet. And we always hear about relationships. Of course, relationships are very important, but you get to that friend zone with a lot of these doctors and you forget about pushing the business forward. And that's a bad trap you want to get into. So we're going to talk about that and more on how to be successful. As always, though, guys, before we move forward, any questions, make sure you submit them into the chat and we'll address them about halfway through the show. For all of you that are still struggling, again, look at yourself right now, guys. If you've been trying to break into this industry and it's been over 2 months, okay, then it's time to change things up. If you're struggling to get more interviews, if you're getting interviews, but you're not getting to that, not getting any offers, guys, keep doing the same thing is not going to work. There's too much competition out there. You have to step it up. And we know the strategy. We know the process. We've helped place thousands of people all around the country. We've been doing this for years. Join the RepPath Academy. Click the link below, reppath.com. You could see right on the screen there of all the statistics of how we've gotten people in quickly, the main companies that we've placed all around the country, and those great testimonials from our candidates who've achieved success. So go to reppath.com or shoot me a DM on LinkedIn so you can learn more and we can get you signed up today. Lastly, if you want to see a copy of this podcast or any other material that we produce, please go on my YouTube channel, the RepPath Academy. You can click the link below. Subscribe. It's 100% free, guys. You'll be able to get this content and everything else that we produce. There's a ton of stuff on there. You could achieve a lot of success just by viewing that content. So if you go on that, please make sure to subscribe today and you'll be able to get all this information. So let's dive into today's topic. Okay. Again, relationships matter, but process wins. So a lot of you are going to break in, and like any industry, at first, customers don't want to talk to you. It takes time to build that relationship with them, whether it's a physician, a nurse, office manager, no matter who it is that's working in this industry, you have to build relationships. And that's great. And that is very important. But you don't want to just rely on relationships and think that that's how you're going to get your business done. That's how you're going to be successful. And trust me, it's not. Building a relationship is just part of it. But you still have to add value. You still have to drive results so you can achieve success. Okay. So being liked, that can help get you access, but being liked is not enough to consistently win. So some of the things that top reps are doing though is consistent follow-up, strong discovery, smart targeting, disciplined execution. They're not just friendly, but they're prepared, they're consistent, and they're intentional. So at the end of the day, guys, relationships can help you open the door, but process gets you through the buying journey. Okay, you have to remember that. The relationships get you through the door, but process is what helps you win. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to talk about today is, again, relationships help, but they're not the whole strategy. All right, so what could a good relationship do for you? It could help you get a meeting. It could help you build trust, stay top of mind, get invited back. But relationships aren't strong enough to scale and drive that business. So essentially, a customer can like you, but still not buy from you. And what good is that? Because a lot of us, and I did this earlier in my career, I would go to the offices and doctors and customers that were friendly to Joe Licata. It made me feel great. And I would keep going back there, but I would check the numbers every month, and when I started in the pharma side. So the numbers are always a month behind. And I'm like, I don't get it. Every time I walk in there, they say they love me. They say they love my product. And every month it's the same, either no growth, or no business at all, a steady little growth, but no real progress. And it was because I wasn't adding value. I was just the nice young guy that smiled. They liked me. I had a nice personality. I was friendly. I come in with stupid trinkets back in the day, pens and pads and, and mouse pads and all that stupid bullshit that they would give out. And, again, I was a nice guy. Why not be nice to Joe? But I wasn't driving results. Okay. So you got to realize this, guys. Physicians can enjoy talking to you and you still not change their behavior. A manager can take your call and still not move forward with the deal. So being liked is helpful, but it doesn't guarantee progress. So at the end of the day, guys, remember, being liked gets you invited back. Being valuable gets you advanced. So it's not about getting invited back each time. That's a prerequisite. That's an automatic. How do you move the process forward? That's how you drive business. So don't just measure your wins throughout the day by how many doctors saw you, how many doctors knew your name. I mean, it sounds so crazy, guys, but I used to say, wow, I'm doing well in that office because everyone knows my name in that office. And that's good. They should. If you're doing your job, your customers should know your name because you're going to do ride-alongs. And there's times doctors, you could tell when reps aren't working. If a doctor doesn't know your name and you've been calling on them for 6 months, you're doing something wrong. Okay, but that's only part of it. Knowing your name, knowing your drug, knowing your device is only part of it. That you have to be bringing value in every time for them to actually start using you or continue to use you or progress to use you even more. Okay, so how do we do that? And that's by process. So your process is what creates your consistency. So average reps, they rely on personality, hustle, timing. Top reps rely on a repeatable process. And what are some of those, what are some of the things that they know that the average reps don't? And that's, number one, who are they targeting? They're not just going in and out, going down their list and going into those friendly offices. They're going to the ones that can drive revenue. Okay. I've told this on many podcasts. I know not only was I going to the offices that liked me, but most of the time, guys, you're going to find out the doctors that will sit and talk to you and give you time and you feel great. It's because they're not that busy. When they have 15 people in their waiting room, 4 reps waiting there too, packed, all their exam rooms packed. You think they have time to talk about product with you? Those are the ones that have the highest script volume. Those are the ones that are writing 10 times as much as that quiet doctor. So you have to know where you're targeting, because at the end of the day, if you're spending your time in the wrong offices, you're not going to be successful. So who are you targeting? Why that account matters. You need to know that too. You need to know more of the history than just, it's a high decile doctor. What problem they are solving. That's key, guys. If you don't know what problems your physician is or their office is facing, you don't really understand your customer. So knowing features and benefits, that doesn't win it anymore. When you come out of training and you can recite, the adverse events and the percentages and know all these numbers and statistics, that's all great, but it doesn't mean shit unless you know what problems that you're solving with that. So you have to really dig deeper and probe and do more of a discovery when you're in these offices, because you need to know what your product solves for that office, because it's not going to be the same for every office. So you can't come in there with that cookie cutter approach. You have to constantly be coming in and figuring out what the problem is, and then how can you solve that specific problem. Who needs to be involved? Again, sometimes it's just the doctor making a decision. Sometimes there's multiple people. Sometimes the office manager has something to say. Sometimes there's nurses. I mean, I'll give you a quick story. When I sold birth control, I was selling NuvaRing. One of my first jobs right out of college, my first job out of the industry with Organon. And I thought this one physician was one of my top users. And for months I was calling on him, and he used NuvaRing, don't get me wrong. But then I found out that there was a nurse practitioner in there, that she was the one that was just under his MPI number. So all the script data was getting tracked under that doctor. But really, it was this nurse practitioner who really loved our product. And she was the one that was prescribing it to patients. And I was overlooking her for months. So you need to know who are the players in that practice, because sometimes you'll be surprised. It's not always just the physician, especially when you get into the surgery centers, and definitely when you get into the hospital space, when you're calling on multiple departments, multiple decision makers. So you need to really know your lay of the land if you're going to be successful. What's the next step? That's key, guys. We've always got to be trying to figure out what the next step in the process is. There's always another step to move the business forward, and you got to know what that is. And when they need follow-up, okay, you got to be there. You got to just not randomly, haphazardly. You have to be there consistently with that follow-up. So the process at the end of the day, guys, removes that guesswork. That guesswork wastes time. If you have a process and a successful process, it can be repeatable, and you could duplicate that office after office, customer after customer, and that's when you start to see real results. It makes your success more predictable, and it keeps you moving even when your motivation is low or the customer is busy. You got to follow that process. So I always push our candidates, and if any of them are listening today, they know what a pain in the ass I am with structure and repetition. What is your routine? Okay. Now, when you get your routine down, guys, that's how you're going to be successful. You can't each day say, well, I wake up, sometimes I wake up at 6, sometimes I wake up 6:30. No, it should be a set time where you do things every day. Now, of course, life gets in the way and things change no matter what the time is, no matter what day it is. But you have to have at least a structure. It's okay to veer from it. But if you don't have structure, you don't have that routine, then you're not going to be successful. So you have to have a daily routine and stick to it. Give yourself non-negotiables that you have to do something every day, whatever that is. A lot of us have, non-negotiables that we are easy for us. Like, we're always going to have our cup of coffee every morning, but a lot of us aren't going to go for a 3-mile run every morning. Well, why not? That's healthy. That's what's really going to help you see results for your health. Why not do the same for work? That every day, you're going to reach out to X number of customers before you leave the house. Or when you're in the field, you're going to make sure that you have at least 5 conversations with doctors, or you go to X amount of offices, whatever it is, but you have a non-negotiable with yourself that you have to hit that every day. And I guarantee you, when you start holding that, those requirements to yourself and make it mandatory, you're going to see the successful follow. So at the end, guys, process doesn't replace personality. It protects performance when personality is not enough. Okay. Next, guys, follow-up. Okay. So the follow-ups, that's where deals are won and lost. I can't tell you how many times I've been in there, been with the physician, had a great call. It went really well. They committed to using the product X amount of times, or they committed to a case, and you have a poor follow-up. So that's only part of it. Getting the commitment face-to-face is a good first step. But you need the follow-ups to really drive the business, okay, and drive that. Because just like them, guys, they're seeing 50 reps every day, okay? You have to get in a good you have to need a strict follow-up, or you're going to be forgotten about, because there's too many other things going on. They got too many other patients, too many other requirements that are going to change everything and make you forgettable unless you make yourself rememberable. Okay, so everyone's busy in these practices, guys. Nurses, doctors, administrators, managers, they all have competing priorities. Okay, no response doesn't always mean no interest. Okay, but the top reps, they don't just check in. You're going to see that a lot. You're going to see a lot of reps coming in there. Again, I did it too. Walk in there. Hey, doc, just checking in. And I'm thinking that by me just being there, that's going to drive business. And that might be nice to you and say, oh, Joe, I got a couple more patients last week. And you think, oh, great, they got a couple more patients. I'm doing well. See, I'm doing my job. I keep checking in. I'm staying consistent. But if you're not really bringing value, guys, then what is that? What's the purpose? So you got to follow up, not just with the follow-up or the check-in, follow up with purpose. What does that mean? So a good follow-up should at least reference your last conversation. You're always going to get something that a doctor says, if it is a good call, don't get me wrong, or there's something to follow up on, but you want it to be a specific follow-up, not just I'm just checking in. And for a side note, guys, when you're responding on email, stop with the just checking in. Get that out of your vocabulary. Don't respond anymore with just checking in when you're opening up an email. It's lazy. Every rep does it. You're not going to stand out that way. It actually makes people instantly go like roll their eyes because they know that you're not adding value. There's no purpose. So get that out of there. Stop with that opening. You got another good example of a good follow-up. Restate the customer's problem. They could have told you about something last time that they're struggling with or their practice is struggling with. It could be, workflow efficiency or whatever it is, but remind them that that's what you talked about last time and that was an issue and how you might see a solution. You might come with a study that might be interesting, but show that you paid attention to what their needs were. That's the whole purpose of that. Always adding value. Always. Top reps are always adding value. Talk about this over and over. You're confirming the next step. So before you leave there, you don't ever want to leave, especially if they give you a commitment. Joe, you know what? I love this product. I think I'm going to give it to my next 3 patients. I got 3 patients, man. I'm going to give it to them. You go, oh, great. Shake the doctor's hand. Great. I'll see you soon. And you walk out. No, guys, terrible. You need to confirm what the next step is. Okay. Okay, great. You know what? I'm going to be in here next Friday. So by then you should see those patients and should have some, something good to report. Or if they say, no, Joe, that's too soon, give it 2 weeks. Okay. I'll be in here 2 weeks from this Friday to get a good follow-up and we'll take it from there. If there's anything else you need from me, please reach out. But at least this is the next step. Or if they leave you with a question you don't know. A lot of times I used to think that was, a screw up on my part. It's a good thing, guys, because you have an excuse for a follow-up, a real follow-up. Sorry, I know I'll get you that information. I'll make sure to follow up with you by tomorrow or by early next week, by Monday, by Tuesday, so you know that you have a reason to go back in there the next time and you're bringing real value. Again, not just checking in. And that's what keeps the momentum alive. Okay, and at the end of the day, guys, that's what you need in all these offices. You don't want that stalled momentum. And you're all going to get there. I don't care how good of a rep you are. There's days and times you walk into offices and it's just like, shit, I don't know where to go next. We kind of gone down different paths. You want to make sure when you have that positive momentum, keep it alive. You're going to see the business is going to keep coming in. When you stall that momentum, that's when the progress stops. That's when the results start to slow down. So make sure whenever you have that momentum, keep it going. So here's some, typical examples of good follow-up. So doctor, you mentioned turnover was a major issue. I found an example that may be relevant, and then you present it. Last time we spoke, you said the committee was meeting in June. Is that still the timeline? Again, you're talking about something that you discussed the last time and setting the tone that, you're following up from that conversation, not just checking in, right? I'm not using just checking in. You mentioned Dr. Patel would need to be involved. What's the best way to include her? Okay. Again, keeping it from following up from that last conversation. And lastly, you said cost was a concern. So I pulled together some quick comparison data that may help and then present that data. So, again, just to sum up, guys, the fortune is just not in the follow-up. It's in the quality of the follow-up. So you always want to have a quality follow-up, not just showing up. You need to actually present valuable information to keep that momentum going. Okay. So we touched on this next part in the beginning, and that's the discovery. Okay. That's your probing. That's finding out what's going on there. And that the discovery is always going to be pitching. Okay. So you're going to hear people talk about, features and benefits versus adding value. Okay. So the discovery is the part that people struggle with the most. They come out of training and they learn all about features and benefits. They want to get out there and they just start spitting it out in front of doctors. They just start talking about all the, whatever it is, the disease state, the study results. They're just talking, feature benefit. And they feel like they're winning because they checked off all the boxes. Meanwhile, they didn't do any discovery. So what the hell point is that if you're not finding out what that physician wants? What is important to them? Because I can guarantee you, not every feature and benefit is important to the doctor. Actually, very few. You're going to have very few customers that say, I love everything about this product. There's usually one or two things that they like about it, and that could drive their usage, through the roof and make, just 100% just use your product. But it's usually not every feature and benefit. So you need to find out what's important, and that's the discovery part. So again, a lot of prep reps know the product well, but product knowledge is not the same as a sales skill. Okay, so many reps are pitching too early. They're not finding out what the doctor's key drivers are. That's what I was talking about, which is shooting out features and benefits. But what the top reps do, they slow down and they ask questions. And this was one of the biggest struggles for me, especially when you're in this. And I'm not saying it's easy, guys, because when you're really face-to-face with a doctor, they're very rarely going to give you 20, 30, 40 minutes, do a 5-10 minute role play or any of that. A lot of times it could be a quick 15, 20 second, walk by conversation, or they say, Joe, what do you got? And they're in a rush. So you get nervous and you're afraid to ask a question. I was always afraid, well, if they only give me 20 seconds, I got to just say my product and a quick benefit. And I remember I had a manager when I first started, this gentleman named, I don't want to give his last name just for his privacy, but this guy named Jeff, who I really respected Jeff. Jeff was such a pain in the neck on ride-alongs. And my first couple of ride-alongs, I would roll my eyes like, oh man, this guy just drives me crazy. And I didn't realize it at the time. And I learned it, later, that how good of a manager he was, because he forced me to get uncomfortable and break out of my comfort zone. We talk about this every day at the academy. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Okay. And it's so true, guys. You have to get that way. That's how you know you're growing. And he forced me, this one physician, I would walk in. Every time I walked in, he would walk by me and just say Avinza, because he knew that was my drug. And I thought, well, I'm doing my job. He's only just walking by, and he's like, well, Joe, you didn't do anything. And I go, yes, I did. He knows my drug. I think I'm doing my job. So it's fresh in his head. Next time he gets a pain patient, he's going to give him Avinza. And he's like, yeah, but you didn't uncover any needs. And then sure enough, he forced me, he goes, all I want you to do, whether he keeps walking or not, ask a question. And I did. And I thought it was going to bomb. I'm like, he's going to just keep walking by me. And I shit you not, he sat there. He was intrigued by the question. He stopped. Before you know it, we talked for 15 minutes. And that was the first time that's ever happened to me with him. Because every time he would walk by and I would try to jump in front of him and show him different study, different detail aid, throw it in his face, and it wasn't working. I got him to stop because I asked an intriguing question. And to be honest with you, I don't remember what it was right now, but I know it was something that got him to think. And then from that question, it turned into this whole conversation. And that really did start to propel my business in that account. When I thought I was doing the right thing by just walking in there, he knows my product, that's a win. It's not, guys. Okay, so a lot of these doctors, you got to realize too, just because they know the doses, just because they know the specs about your device, whatever it is, that doesn't mean they're always using it. These are smart guys, okay? Smart guys and girls. Everyone, they've been doing this a while. They know the doses. They know the specs about the products. That doesn't mean they use it every day. So you got to get them to stop and think. So always push more questions, guys. It's very hard. And what that's going to do, what the discovery is going to do, it's going to uncover many things. It's going to uncover what are they doing in their current process? What are some of their pain points? What are some of their clinical challenges? Their operational issues, financial concerns? Who are the decision makers? What are the real timelines? What's the approval process? What's the competitive situation? So again, the goal is to diagnose before you prescribe. We talk about this all the time too, guys, in these podcasts, just like a doctor does. You don't walk into a doctor's office and they go, wait, stop. I'm going to tell you about this drug. I think you'll love this drug. It's good for someone your age. I think you'll really do well. It has a lot of success. And they're sitting there and they're talking about a drug, an antibiotic, and you don't have an infection. So why the hell would they give you the antibiotic and you have, an arrhythmia, or you got high blood pressure, or, you just have a cold? So what they do, they try to diagnose what's going on with you. How do they do that? They ask a lot of questions. They don't just check your blood pressure and check your vitals and then give you a drug. I've never met a physician who's ever done that and just gave a drug. They have to ask a lot of questions. That's the discovery. And then based on what you're telling them, that's when they prescribe. You do the same thing. So every time you're in front of a doctor, think like a doctor. Be a doctor. Okay? So start your discovery. Ask questions. Diagnose. And then prescribe. Your prescription is, what's the next step? What's the solution? How does your product provide value here? That's how you're going to be successful. So I challenge all of you out there. We do this. We talk about this all the time too, guys. I want you to next call, do your best not to bring up your product. It's so hard. And when you're a manager, it's even harder because they're going to look at you like, what the hell? We spent money on this lunch or this breakfast, or you scheduled this meeting. You're not going to talk about the product. Yes, that's what I want you to do. Tell your manager they're wrong too. Have a bunch of questions, have conversation, and increase that discovery. Because I'm telling you right now, you can mention your product, get all the features and benefits out. It's going to do nothing in the process as compared to discovering more. You might not get all the features and benefits out that day, but I guarantee you it's going to propel you leaps and bounds further by just spending more time and not talking about your product. You're also making it about your customer and not about you. The less you talk about the product, the more it's about your customer. So make sure you do that, guys. Next call, I promise you, you're going to see the success. Make sure you're asking more questions and talking less about your product, and you're going to see how that makes a difference. So what are some of those questions? Some are simple. Again, doesn't have to be rocket science here, guys, but what are you currently using? What is working well? What is not working well? What happens if this doesn't change? Okay, and they'll talk about that. That's some of their pain points. Like, if we keep doing this, we're going to be in financial trouble, or, patients are going to continue to struggle, or it's going to continue to create workflow problems for our staff. Who is affected by this issue? Because sometimes it might not be a big deal to the physician. And if you find out that using this product actually creates a lot more work for the nurses, then guess who you want to talk to next, guys? Go talk to the nurses and start bringing up that you have a solution for them. Because the doctor might just be like, I don't really care what we use. And then you find out, well, if the nurses know about this, you're going to save them a lot of time. They can go, oh shit, Joe, you know what? Let's get this used tomorrow because we're going to see a lot of success with this. They'll start talking to the doctor. Before you know it, they're going to start using your product. Especially if the doctor doesn't care, the nurses can get in his or her head and all of a sudden can start driving the results for you. Last couple of ones, what would make this worth evaluating and what would stop this from moving forward? And that's another important one, guys, because that'll open up, is the doctor the only decision maker? And this is where that's a great question, because you'll find out a lot of times that if you don't ask that question, if you don't ask any questions, doctors will smile, they'll yes you to death, they'll say, this sounds great, this looks good. Now, all of a sudden, you ask that simple question, what would stop this from moving forward? Oh, well, we don't make those decisions. That gets made at the corporate level, at whatever IDM we're a part of. They decide the products that are approved for usage. And you're sitting there and you're like, I just wasted months calling on this doctor that doesn't even make the decision here. And I assume that they did. And believe me, guys, even though you're not in the hospital space, a lot of these practices, they aren't made, a lot of decisions aren't made at that level. So if you want to get a doctor to use your product, they might be being dictated to whatever products are allowed to be used at whatever IDN, whether it's Atlantic Health System, NYU, Yale New Haven, Mount Sinai, whatever it is, whatever system it is, Banner Health, the decisions could be made hundreds of miles away, and you're banging your head up against the wall, not knowing that because you never asked the question. So it's not your fault if you're asking the questions, you're getting that information. Now you got to go elsewhere to get to move the ball forward. But if you're going to continue to go to that same physician in that office and just talk features and benefits and not get that proper discovery, that's why you're going to fail. So you need to be asking these questions. A simple question like that can save you months and months of work. I know we're going to do a couple more of these, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So, next I want to talk about discipline, guys. And this is on the same, along the same lines of process and daily routines. But, at the end of the day, guys, discipline separates top performers from average reps. Discipline's not exciting. Sometimes it's boring. When you see people that have the same lunch every day, they eat the same salad, they have the same workout routine, a lot of times you're like, oh, that's boring to me. I need more excitement. But a lot of times those are the more successful people because they follow a strict routine. They have discipline, and discipline is what drives those results. It's those small things that are done consistently that'll help you achieve those wins. So what does that mean? What are some of those examples? Planning your week. Okay. A lot of you, I know this. I've trained many people around the country. A lot of you do not plan your weeks. You fly by the seat of your pants. You get up on a Monday morning, you go, where am I going? You might have one office that you have an appointment at, and you go, you know what? Since I'm here, screw it. I'll just call on, another 10 offices. But if you really plan your week out and utilize your time, especially the busier you get, you're going to see, you can't just waste time someplace. The busier territory that you take over, especially when you're covering cases, when you have a territory that covers a couple of states, you'll see you need a strategy. You need to have your schedule down pat or you're not going to be successful. So for me, what really works, I get ahead on the weekend. And I get a lot of shit from this, people online, oh, you're taking away from family time. And that's all nonsense. That's excuses. You could still go away for a weekend with the family. You can't tell me that if you spend a half hour in the morning after your morning workout, before your kids get up or whatever you have to do, and spend some time at least mentally preparing your week, it's going to help you get ahead. So make sure you're really planning out your weeks. I don't care if you do it on the weekend, you do it on a Friday, you do it early on a Monday morning before you hit the field, whatever it is, get it before you get in that car and just start driving around. Prep your week. This is what a top performer does. And the more in advance that you're prepping, the more successful you're going to be, because shit's going to come up and at least you're not scrambling. The more prepared you are, the more you could be prepared for the unexpected too. Prepping before calls. Don't just walk into calls, guys. Don't just wing it. I did it. It's not going to help you. Have a real plan. A lot of you young reps out there, when you're working with your managers and you're in a ride along and you're rolling your eyes like, oh man, we're going to sit here and role play. We're going to talk about this for 15 minutes before we walk in the office. I just want to get in there and get this day done, because you're used to getting your day done in a few hours. Now your manager's with you. Now you got to work a full day with the manager. But I get it, guys. But the more that you prep for those calls, the more successful you're going to be. Especially if you prep for and you start to learn some of the objections ahead of time, you're going to be ready for them. so you don't blow those opportunities. So make sure you're prepping before every call with an intention of what you're going to speak about that day, or at least questions you're going to ask. Updating your CRM. Again, something I was terrible with. Guys, treat your CRM, and be up to date. Not only your CRM, but also your car. Don't treat your office. That's your office. How many offices have you walked by? Successful people, when you go and meet with people, big time executives, their office is always immaculate. It's neat. The more successful people I've met with, they always have neat offices. Why would you treat your car that way? That's your office for many of us. We're on the road. Have it neat. Have your samples neat in the back. Have your equipment neat. Have your detail, your studies. Everything should be very neat in your car, not just when you're prepping for your manager. Don't just be a fake, detail person. Be a real detail person, and make sure that you're updating all that daily or at the very least weekly, because it's very important. That and your CRM. Don't just have bullshit notes in there. If you meet new people within the office, update it in the CRM. Anything new, get it in the CRM. Don't just say, no, I'll remember that next time I go in there. No, guys, you should have so much information that you need your CRM to keep you organized. So make sure you're doing that. Tracking decision makers, that's along the same lines as updating your CRM, because they should be in there. Confirming the next steps, following up when you said you would. Don't say you'll be here on Tuesday and then show up there on Thursday or Friday. If you say Tuesday, be there. Because I'm telling you, even though they may not see you Tuesday, the more that you're known as someone that when you say you're going to be there, you'll be there, that shows trust. They're going to want to work with someone that is always there and is reliable. The reps that always say, I'll be there, and then they don't follow up, whatever, trust me, the doctors notice that. They're not going to want to work with someone that's unreliable. So make sure you're always there when you said you would. And again, at the end of the day, guys, you need to know where every deal stands. If your manager asks you what's going on here, what's going on there, and you don't know exactly what's going on, that means you don't have a real command of your business. You don't really have an understanding of your territory. If he has to point to an account, you should know everything that's going on there. And it might be an account that you're not giving much attention to, but at least if you're not giving it attention, have your reasons why. It can't be a top account that all of a sudden, I just don't go there because they don't see me, and you have no knowledge of what's going on. That's no excuse, guys. You need to know what's going on. But if you're not going somewhere, you need to know the reasons why. So again, most of these deals are lost because of those process failures. The rep missed a stakeholder. The rep didn't confirm the timeline. The rep assumed interest, meant commitment. The rep failed to follow up. The rep let the deal drift. So at the end of the day, deals do not usually die all at once. They die from small process failures. Make sure your process is airtight and you're going to be more successful. But I went a little over. So James, I'm going to pause here and shut up and see if there's any questions from the crowd.
You're lucky I was nice today. I almost jumped in when you were talking about your buddy Jeff and gave my own movie quote. My name's Jeff.
Yes. It's so good.
Hey, Joe, I got a movie quote for you.
I love it.
Jeff. Tyler Brennan. When you say process wins, are you talking about a written playbook reps follow, or more like personal habits that compound over time?
So I'm sorry. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Still thinking about Jeff?
Yes.
Tyler said, when you say process wins, are you talking about a written playbook that reps follow, or more like personal habits that compound over time?
Personal habits. It's definitely habits are so powerful, Tyler. You want to be doing, and I'm not saying it's all about just eating the same breakfast, doing that same, it's everything overall. The more that you make it that you do this every day or once a week, or you get that onto your calendar, start with your phone. Okay. I have prospecting. I have when I'm going to post my whatever post I'm doing, when I'm, obviously my weekly calls, when I'm going to be speaking, and doing any kind of speaking engagements, when I'm going to be reaching out to different clients, the stuff that is annoying, right? You need to make sure that you get that into your daily routine. Your daily routine is so important, guys. When you don't have daily routines, you sit on your phone, you start scrolling, looking at bullshit on social media, you start calling friends, you just waste time. That's what I do. Okay. When I don't have a routine, the saying, the idle mind is the devil's playground. I was the worst with that. But when I'm busy, obviously when you're busy, that's a good thing. But make yourself busy too, guys. Don't just let idle time, don't waste any time during the day. You got plenty of time at night to relax on the couch, watch the games. Like, I'm excited this week. The Knicks, favorite team. Can't wait to watch Knicks games this week. Can't wait for them to win it all. Love that. Nothing's going to interrupt that for me. But that's my fun time. Okay, but I'm able to do that because I'm not wasting time, throughout my day. So make sure you create great habits and a good structure, daily structure, and you're going to see that's going to be successful. Help you be successful. Excuse me.
We got Stephanie Barlow. For someone interviewing, what process-related questions should I be asking the hiring manager to show I'm not just a charisma play?
So what process-related questions you should be asking, ask them who are their top reps. Let them give them their names, whoever that is. They could give, who are their top 2 or 3 reps on the team, and what is the process that they're doing to make them successful, and see what they say. They should know that. They should know, like, oh, well, I know, Jill, she's the top rep on the team, and what she does every week, she's going to different, different hospital events to meet doctors outside of the operating room, or she's calling on, different surgery centers, or actually she's working with podiatrists because the podiatrists they're referring to the pain specialist, and there's a good referral pattern there, or there's a good referral pattern from the internist to the cardiologist, whatever that is. They do things that are, a routine that are outside of the box. But I would just straight up ask, what is some of the things, that they're doing to be successful? And that hiring manager should have some good examples for you to learn from.
Chase Donnelly, Joe, what's your take on cold walking offices in 2026? Is it still part of a winning process or completely dead?
It's definitely not dead, because guys, you got to get in people's faces. The more that we all listen, I get it, especially after COVID, the access is getting worse and worse. You do have to be strategic. I don't agree with just doing the same thing every week. If a doctor will not see you at this office, you've been going there 10 weeks in a row at the same time, doing the same shit. But Joe said, no, make a cold call. No, guys, I'm not just saying be a robot and go out there doing the same thing every day over and over, even if it's not giving you success. No, you got to change shit up. But going in and knocking on doors some days and just going to see if you have a chance to see a physician and get in front of them, absolutely, that is not dead. And another thing that's not dead is the telephone. A lot of people get away from using the phone. There's actually there's a great topic and study that Jeb Blount uses in fanatical prospecting, right? And he talks about this, how he's done this many times where he had reps that all they did was use social media. And he's like, okay, so what we're going to do this day, I'm just going to use the phone. And that rep said, no, the phone is dead. No one uses the phone anymore. And all they did was use social media. At the end of the day, the rep had, 50 new followers, got however 150 new likes by different posts and outreach. All this shit that means nothing. He made, I think it was like 80 phone calls. He wind up booking like 5 appointments and closed 2 sales that day just by being on the phone. Now, it wasn't the likes, it wasn't all the views and all the other shit that everyone else was measuring, which means nothing. But at the end of the day, it was, what did you actually produce? And by just using the phone, he was able to produce, X amount in sales that day. Just by cold calling, reaching out to people. It sounds stupid, guys, but believe me, a lot of you, nobody wants to do that anymore. Nobody actually wants to get on the phone and talk to someone. They want to close them online. They want to get them to sign up. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you just have a conversation, people hear in your voice. You're able to, get more personal with them. Or at the very least, schedule an appointment just by being on the call with them. But more people are moving away from the telephone and doing everything over email and social media, that it's something simple. So don't just give up on cold calling, and definitely don't give up on the cell phone, on your phone. And you're going to see it's things that most people don't want to do, that actually doing the old school things help you stand out because no one wants to do them anymore. So it's something to think about.
We got Marcus Lifts 305. Joe, is there a process or a habit you stole from another rep that changed the game for you?
Something I stole from another rep in terms of process. I guess it wasn't really. I think it was the asking more questions. That was my biggest hurdle, and it was something that I learned. I really learned it from a manager, but just to be more patient when you're in those meetings. Don't rush to just think you win just by getting your product name out, and be calmer. And you're trying to go for that close. You think by talking about your product, you're closer to getting to the close, and you're not. And getting in that process of asking more questions, making it about your customer, trying to find out what's going on there. What are their real needs, and make it more about them. And that's what was helping me become more successful, as opposed to just going out there and shooting out those features and benefits. So that's probably the biggest process change. Was once I got a meeting, was to get in front of them and not rush to the product, and talk and ask more questions.
I got B Whitfield 22. How do you balance the social side of this job with the actual work without burning out?
The social side with the actual work? I mean, it shouldn't. Listen, everyone has to balance the social side with work. So if you're struggling to do that, I don't know if this may not be the position for you, but for most of these roles, it only gets more demanding when you're working in an office and you have to be in a certain place, from, one time to the, from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever the heck it is. That's harder to me than being in the field, where you usually have more flexibility. Most sales reps, I don't think that they would say that that's a problem. Don't get me wrong, you're covering cases, you have to stay late, it gets unpredictable. But on the pharma side, the diagnostic side, when you're not covering cases, they usually have more flexibility, where that's typically not a problem. So you can, it's not that hard to juggle both the work and the social side. But if it is, that's something you got to look at and say, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm not being as effective throughout my day. And look at your habits, and start changing some of your habits, start changing some of your routine, so you do have more flexibility later on. Maybe you are wasting time during the day, and now it's costing you time later on when you should be with family or friends, or doing, more personal stuff. So, but typically with sales reps, when you're on your own, you're in the field, that usually isn't that big of a challenge.
Let's see. Tyler outside, do you think these Gen Z reps are better or worse at process than millennial reps?
Well, I'm a Gen X. So like everyone else that's older, you always think your generation does things better than the younger generations. But I don't want to sound like an old fart. We can all sit in my parents, the baby boomers, and whatever the hell else was before the baby boomers. they'll probably say that, we're lazy as shit. Everyone's going to always say that the younger generations are lazier and they don't have process. And guys, at the end of the day, everyone's different. There's people I know that are older than me that I think are lazy. And, some people that are older, I think are rock stars. Some are younger, I think are rock stars. Some I think are lazy. It really is the individual. Because I will say this, the ones that do have structure and process, they are typically, no matter if they're a Gen Z, millennial, whatever the hell they are, they're the ones that are going to be more successful. The lazier ones, they don't have structure. They don't have a process. They go out there and wing it, and then they get frustrated, and then they don't see the results. So that's what makes them, to me, look lazier, but it's just spending that time to get that process involved first, get those good habits in. But I don't really see something that it's like, oh, it's a millennial, they're going to suck, or it's a Gen Z, oh, they're going to be lazy. Now, I've had individuals that have been rock stars and, haven't impressed me at every age level.
I got one more for you today, Joe. What's the longest deal cycle you've ever closed, and what kept you in it?
Well, it was actually a deal for robotics that was over 3 years that we actually did not close. But one that I did close was probably closer to 2 years, but the 3-year one was very frustrating because I aligned everything. I had a champion, we had site visits, we had approval, we had space for the room, we had the budget approval, everything. And one gentleman from Biomed gave a bone-crushing statement and mentioned something about our service plan that the hospital didn't really know about, and it wasn't cheap. And that comment in front of the whole department basically killed the deal for me. So it was something 3 years working on, and it wound up not going through. It sucked. I wanted to freak out that day. I did freak out, but it was awful. But that was the longest deal that actually worked on, where I was right there ready to close, and one comment killed it. But I worked on another deal. It was over 2 years. We got the deal. What kept me aligned was always having a next step in the process. And you guys will learn this on the capital side. You don't go in and just make a capital deal. Most capital deals doesn't work that way. Now, of course, there's always, outliers there, but most deals take a lot of time on the capital side. They take budget approvals. They take multiple departments involved, especially when I was working at Stereotaxis. I mean, they're multi-million-dollar deals. They're not going to get approved overnight. So you always have to have another stage, a next step in the process. And they did a great job of that, where we always had different stages. Where are we at? Stage 1, 2, 3, 4. And we always wanted to get to that next stage before we can close. And if you have the right stages set up, that's going to be the right path to get to that close. But you need that first, because that's what kept me, in all those deals, because I was always pushing it to the next step. I didn't just go from opening conversation to close. You need all the steps in between. And if you have that mapped out right, that's going to help you be successful.
That's all I got today, Joe.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you, James. Thank you, guys. A lot of great questions. I'm still pissed for James stealing my equipment with the podcast. So it's a little annoying.
Start looking for him, dude. I hit him good.
It's such a bastard. And I don't know how you came in and out, too, and why you went back to New Jersey.
Another movie quote for you, Joe. I think you underestimate my sneakiness. I am very, very sneaky. Big Daddy, great classic.
Great, very good movie, by the way. Hip Hop Anonymous.
Damn you! You give him all the easy ones. No, that was not Big Daddy. That was Mr. Deeds. Mr. Deeds. It was Mr. Deeds when he was up by the sink getting a Hawaiian punch. He's putting his socks on.
Oh yeah. But Hip Hop Anonymous is definitely
Big Daddy. Yeah.
Big Daddy, yeah. But
Lamb and tuna fish.
But thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for great questions today. Again, guys, it all comes down to don't think that you're winning just by getting relationships. Okay, you need to continue to push the process further. The relationships are great, but you'll see they'll stall, and you'll just walk in there and it'll be another friend. And it gets harder. If you don't make it about business, it gets harder because a lot of times you get trapped and it's almost like uncomfortable to ask for the business. Guys, that's why you're there. So remember, you're there to drive revenue, and that's how you get paid. So don't get stuck and feel uncomfortable. You need to make it about the business first. So, but if you guys need anything else, obviously you can always shoot me a DM. Again, RepPath Academy, guys, any of you are struggling, want to see more of you, reach out because we can help you get there. Go to reppath.com or hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'll be able to help you, get signed up right away, if you do qualify. And lastly, anyone that's a lobby member, make sure you use the passcode, the promo code Licata, Licata. You can see it there on the screen. Shoot that over to me so you get additional discounts. If not, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you all Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern so we can, discuss more with the RepPath podcast. Have a great day.
Hopefully Joe's finds his equipment.
Yeah, I don't think I will by then, but hopefully I will. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.